Welcome in to the Scoop, the number one UNC football recruiting podcast, brought to you by Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. All right, welcome into the Scoop, a fresh episode. I'm your host, Ross Martin, joined by my co-host and recruiting football guru, Don Callahan. What's going on, Don?
Not too much. It's busy times. Transfer portal, the end of the class really with Sunny Day, like almost a week away, and all the other craziness. The portal has really been what's kept me busy a lot. But official visitors past weekend, Shrine Bowl, we have announcements coming up. It's been nuts.
Yeah, all business, Don here off the top. No pleasantries, no how are you, no asking about anything, right into
How
business.
is Ross? How is Ross? Because you're doing basketball stuff mostly, I would imagine.
Yeah, basketball and trying to figure out offensive coordinator stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, busy time. So Don's been in the Shrine Bowl. We got National Signing Day coming up a week from today. We're recording this on Wednesday, early afternoon. Next Wednesday is
It's
National Signing.
Tuesday. Today's Tuesday.
That's right. We're recording this Tuesday. So 8 days from now is National Signing Day. This will drop on Wednesday, I think is what I meant.
Gotcha.
And there's transfer portal stuff, coaching changes, all that good stuff. So this is the show. It's actually a pretty big show. We haven't done one in a couple weeks. So we're going to get into talking a little about Phil Longo and his decision to leave UNC for Wisconsin. We'll then go into the decommitments that UNC has, I guess, suffered over the last couple weeks, month. Rico Walker, Joshua Horton, and Kavion Keys. We'll then get into the developments and visits surrounding the 2023 class as UNC looks to close up the 2023 sign class. We'll then do a quick National Sign Day preview, whatever that entails, to get y'all set for National Sign Day a week from Wednesday. And then we're going to do some superlatives, which is kind of my contribution to the National Sign Day show, of which I will not be a part of. All right. Let's get into it. First, I mean, the news, broke last couple days and finally today that Mike Leach,
Yeah.
the famed head coach at Texas Tech, at Washington State, and been at Mississippi State for the last couple of years, passed away from heart complications. I mean, we're both kind of big into college football. I would think you and me, Don, watched it for decades now, and he's been a character. One of the most famous head coaches, one of the kind of funniest and oddest head coaches. I love watching. I mean, I would love to have covered him,
Yeah.
and he's such a unique personality. Your thoughts on Mike Leach and what he means for college football, and what he meant to you, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was completely shocking with how it went down and all that, and but like you said, I mean, I was definitely a big Mike Leach fan. I think didn't you borrow my book, Never Return? Did you read it? Swing My Sword or whatever.
I don't think I ever borrowed that. I think I borrowed the Cowboys one.
Okay. All right. Well, if you have not read that book, I recommend that because his personality is definitely in that book. Great book. Um, Definitely one of the coaches I read up on a bunch just because he took such an untraditional path to become a head coach and develop this offense that really is throughout football, NFL, everything. There's a lot of his concepts are throughout the game. Phil Longo, who we'll get into a little bit more. He basically credits Mike Leach for his rise. He spent a lot of time with Leach, loved his offense, loved the concept with that, brought that brought the basis of it to North Carolina. Yeah, and as from a personality, I mean, you just don't. I don't think there's anyone else in the college football game that's on that level, just being so um, different than everyone else, and not giving you the traditional coach speak. There's tons of stuff on Twitter and YouTube that you can kind of pull up, just giving advice on getting married and how you should drink your coffee and all this other stuff. It's great, and it's actually, you watch it now, it's sad, and you kind of wish that you would have, or at least I wish I would have paid attention even more than I already did. It's so unfortunate, and you know we definitely lost a great coach.
Yeah. The big thing was the air raid offense, which
Yeah.
Mike Leach kind of started with the Kentucky head coach, um,
Hal Mummy.
Hal Mummy. And Greg has detailed kind of that path and how Longo, UNC former UNC offensive coordinator Phil Longo, used that as a basis for his offense. The Mike Leach coaching tree involves tons of very well known college coaches, assistant coaches. Dave Aranda at Baylor, Neil Brown at West Virginia, Sonny Dykes at TCU, Josh Heupel at Tennessee. Played quarterback under Leach at Oklahoma when that 1 year at Oklahoma when Josh Heupel was unbelievable. Dana Holgorsen, who was the West Virginia coach, is now the Houston head coach. Cliff Kingsbury, Arizona Cardinals head coach, played for Leach at Texas Tech. Seth Luttrell played quarterback. I think he played running back under Leach in Oklahoma.
Yeah, he's a running back.
Yeah, I'm reading here. And he served as running backs coach at Texas Tech for 4 seasons when Leach was there. Lincoln Riley, head coach at USC. I think Garrett Riley also played for and coached under, just played under for 2 seasons at Texas Tech under Mike Leach. So there's tons of big names. Ken Wilson, the new offensive coordinator at NC State, Robert Anai, Alex Grinch, Brandon Jones, Wes Welker, all these guys. So he's got one of the most influential coaching trees because of his air raid offense, passing the ball tons, the 4 verticals, power run game, all that good stuff came from Mike Leach. And I've always watched videos of his advice for dating. I think it was on some random radio show in Texas Tech. His advice for like a first date, marriage advice, like you mentioned. Which mascots would win if they got a battle. The Pac-12 was an interesting one. If you go on Twitter and search his name, you'll see all the videos of him talking. Of all, college football is known for just boring personalities,
Yes.
Coach speak. Look at Dave Dorham, all these other just very, very boring coaches. And Mike Leach was the exact opposite, would go off tangent, off topic, with tons of different things. So, it's just sad. He died too young, 61 years old.
Yeah, crazy. I'm sure I could talk about this forever, but I'm sure our listeners do not want to hear that forever. But yeah, it's sad, and just so much about him is just so incredible. Just his approach to the game was so different than all the other coaches. He's a guy who would come in late. There's a lot of different things that he did that other coaches don't do. You just kind of went against a lot of the common approaches to being a coach at college football. So
yeah, there you go. So sad. It's also, just stepping away. It's just crazy time. Also, Mississippi State now.
Yeah,
SEC school losing their head coach. Can you imagine losing a standing head coach, sitting head coach? Wake Forest basketball had the same situation when their coach died. I forget his name. Jesus. Whoa, something just happened.
Yeah, don't ask me.
Wake Forest basketball coaches, people are yelling at their screens right now. I'll think of it. But yeah, he's great. Like recruiting, transfer portal, all this stuff's going on right now, and your head coach dies. So, yeah. All right, let's move on.
Yes. Well, the connection for UNC is Phil Longo, who I know is the next topic.
Yes. So last Wednesday, kind of late afternoon, early evening, the news broke. Bruce Feldman, Phil Longo leaving UNC for Wisconsin. We had the article ready. We didn't know where, but there had been so many rumors of him interviewing other places that we had the article ready. And got it out. And then shortly thereafter, we're doing an emergency podcast. And offensive line coach Jack Bicknell announced he's going to follow Longo there. Your initial thoughts on the move, Longo to Wisconsin, leaving UNC without offensive coordinator?
Just in general, it's a quite interesting move to go to Wisconsin, considering their history and the offenses that they have traditionally employed. This is obviously very different than that. But from a recruiting standpoint, because all the football stuff from UNC, I'm sure, has been covered ad nauseum by you, Tommy, Greg, Buck, so on and so forth. From a recruiting standpoint, I don't know if it's going to have much of an impact. Well, all right, I should say, we'll know the impact based off of who Mac Brown hires to replace him, because I think that's where you kind of see the impact. Because I mean, coaching changes happen all the time. This is just something that's part of the game. But who they bring in, what level of recruiter is this person? What sort of system do they bring in? I imagine something similar to what Longo ran, but I don't know that to be the case 100%. But as a recruiter, Longo was above average when it comes to activity as a coordinator. Typically coordinators don't do a whole lot of recruiting. They're not on staff for that purpose. They're on staff because of their offense or their defense. But he had territories in state, the Forsyth area, which included Winston-Salem, some of the other counties surrounding there. So he was involved with a lot of those guys. Kernersville, which meant Ra Dilworth, who just recently transferred out. Jabari Ritzy, he was heavily involved there. Had good relationships with those guys. So in addition to that, like any other quarterback coach, he heavily recruited the quarterbacks. That probably means that it's impossible to kind of project who UNC will sign at quarterback for the 2024 class, just because it's probably the only guy UNC was really had a great chance with at the moment was Mabry Metter, who kid from Texas. You got to imagine whoever UNC brings in probably has relationships with guys he's currently recruiting at his current school, or is just going to strike up new ones. So I think it remains to be seen just how this affects North Carolina's recruiting.
Yeah, so the recruiting angle there, the quarterback. So Metter is 2024, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that was the main guy.
And I probably should mention Tad Hudson. Talked to him. He has the flu, so we didn't talk too much. Talked to him last week, shortly after it was announced. He says he's good. I never really thought that there was any question what Tad would do. I immediately assumed he would stick with North Carolina. That's going to be the case. So the focus now is just how this affects classes beyond this current class.
Yeah, and the big thing is that he was a really good offensive coordinator and very prolific and explosive, and that affected recruiting because players wanted to play for him. Once Drake May saw what Sam Howell was doing at Carolina in that offense, it enticed him to sign with UNC or flip his recruitment from Alabama. He was the lead recruiter on Jacoby Criswell, who's in the transfer portal and has since committed to Arkansas, and Connor Harrell. So, I mean, it's all about the offense, the passing attack, the quarterback. That's the main situation there. Yep.
I actually felt like, I mean, obviously he had a good reputation before, but I felt like with this past season, I was really curious the impact it was going to have going forward, just because it just seemed like he took it to a different level as far as the production. A brand new quarterback, a redshirt freshman, and having that sort of success. So I thought it was going to have major impact for at the quarterback position for the 2024 and 2025 classes. Obviously, we're not going to see that now because he's headed to Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, seeing what Drake May did, got to the national stage, became a Heisman candidate. That's and is poised to be a NFL draft pick. That's going to attract a lot of attention, quarterback wise. You always felt the quarterback position was in good hands with Phil Longo and the offense there. And to add to that point, he showed the productiveness and effectiveness of the offense over two different quarterbacks. So it worked not just with Sam, but also with Drake. So it was a kind of a plug and play situation with different running backs, different wide receivers, different quarterback over 4 seasons. Greg said, I think, on the podcast with the roundtable, I think he joined late on that one, or joined as a second part of that. I mean, Greg wrote he's arguably the best offensive coordinator in UNC football history. So, I mean, he has two of the best seasons statistically.
I can't think of anyone who's better, but Greg, Greg has way more knowledge in his head alone about that stuff than I would.
Yeah. This 2020 season with the two running backs, Javonte and Michael, Javonte Williams and Michael Carter, Yami Brown, Daz Newsome, Sam Howell, and I think this year with Drake May and Josh Downs. So incredible. Yeah. And I mean, he was a great guy, covered him for 4 seasons, had a little bit of a relationship with him. he was a good dude. I is a good dude. Despite what people think or the flat top, the cowboy boots, like he was a good guy, a family man. Um, you know, these coaches don't have to text and deal with guys like me. And so when a couple do, they're going out of their way to do that. And so I'll always have a little relationship with Longo there. Anything else?
No, ready to get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm interested to see how he does at Wisconsin because you got to
Yeah, me
recruit
too.
differently there. You can't, the great head coach he had a relationship with Fickle. Um, you
I
know,
don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna have any problem because you look at like, and I know it's not Wisconsin, but it's Midwest. It's kind of that region. The MAC schools.
mhm.
They get good quarterbacks. They get great receivers. They put up big passing numbers. I and I understand that's MAC compared to the Big Ten, but I'm just talking about finding those sort of recruits. I think it's possible.
Yeah. I think you'll have success there. I just think it's a little bit hard, a little bit different, and harder to recruit certain types of athletes there. I mean, there's not a lot of people coming out of Wisconsin
No.
and that area. You're gonna have to go get people out of Texas
Yeah.
and Ohio and the highly populated states with a lot of athletes to run
Yeah.
that offense
No.
because they traditionally run that offensive line based power run.
Yeah.
Get a couple good. They had great running backs. A couple Heisman
Yeah.
winners, and so now it's be
Well,
different.
it's, it almost kind of feels like you remember. Now this is going back, but when Nebraska, constantly ran the triple option, and all of a sudden went to the West Coast offense with Bill Callahan. That's almost kind of what it feels like a little bit. And that didn't really end well. And Wisconsin's, and Tennessee has kind of been, in a tailspin ever since.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's move on. Let's go ahead and let's talk about Johnny T-shirt and johnnytshirt.com, the sponsor for this show. It's Christmas time. I mean, you got a week and a half now to get your Christmas shopping done. Head over to Johnny T-shirt on Franklin Street or online, johnnytshirt.com, and get what you need for your family. I need to go over there and get something for my niece. Maybe a little stuffed animal or something like that. So I will be going to Johnny T-shirt to do some of my Christmas shopping. Remember, all Inside Carolina premium subscribers get 10% off. Go to the message board, just get that code. Join Inside Carolina. It's a great time with all the scoops coming in with recruiting and coaching searches. Johnny T-shirt and johnnytshirt.com. Inside Carolina's loyal sponsor. Independent businesses, support them. Locally owned, great customer service. Johnny T-shirt and johnnytshirt.com. Couple of national ads. We'll be right back with more of the scoop. All right, we're back with the scoop. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. You can see our faces on YouTube. Subscribe to Inside Carolina's YouTube page. Rate, review, and subscribe to where we get your podcast. Don, what's going on?
Not much. Just ready to get into more recruiting stuff.
There you go. Decommitments. We talked about Rico Walker on the last podcast. So that's been in the new. That's been happened 3 or 4 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Rico Walker left the class, so no need to dwell on that. More recently, Joshua Horton, the defensive tackle out of Georgia, decommitted. And then just late last week, Kavion Keys decommitted. Let's start with Joshua Horton. Just what happened there, and what's it mean for UNC's class?
Yeah, so try to tread delicately with this. The word on the streets is that there was some NIL situations involved that
what do you used to call it? What, magic dust?
The fairy dust.
Yeah.
He got some of that South Beach fairy dust sprinkled on him, and he's committed to the Hurricanes. Well, I guess it's not ironic, but he attended, I don't know if it was the NC State game or the Georgia Tech game. He attended, and from there, it just kind of went south. I remember talking to him.
Literally.
And yeah, literally south. We were supposed to talk afterwards, and he's always been really good. Anytime we talk, he's a kid I would text with and all that sort of stuff, and no problems. And then he just kind of went silent on me. In the past, that has happened to me, and it's always not been a great sign for North Carolina because there have been recruits who kind of associate me with UNC, even though I'm completely separate. I just cover the university, and but that's always kind of like a red flag for me. Not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily mean something bad, but in this situation, it definitely did.
Yeah.
And so,
No one goes silent on you.
well, I don't know about that.
You're the canary. I'm saying like that's bad news bears. That you're the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah, well, you never know.
They go silent on Don. You know it's bad news for the recruitment.
Well, there have been times where kids, the phones are broken or they get there's been a commit who actually has his phone taken away as a punishment. So those situations do happen. So you never want to jump to conclusions, but it can be a red flag that needs to be looked into. And when I looked into it, I found out we reported this about a week before it actually happened because it was basically done at that point. But so he flipped to Miami.
Okay, what does it mean for UNC's class? All right, so let's go some basics here. 6'4", 285. A high 3-star kid, nationally ranked 486 in the nation, number 54 defensive tackle. He was one of multiple defensive lineman commitments, leaving UNC with, I believe, just one kind of interior guy, right?
Yeah. So for North Carolina, if we kind of go back to coming out of June with all those official visits, UNC started kind of stop recruiting a lot of guys, mainly because they were happy at defensive line and with who they had committed or who they were anticipating committing by the summer. Horton, who initially wasn't expected to commit over the summer, was a guy they kind of kept on just because they felt like, hey, he's a good player. We're good at D-line, but we're not going to turn this kid down. We think he's a good enough player. So, and the expectation at the time was that he probably was going to go somewhere else. So it wasn't going to be that big of a deal. Anyway, he really liked his official visit to UNC. I mean, heading into it, UNC wasn't a factor. Going out of it, North Carolina was the team to beat. And I think because, right after those official visits, we had the dead period. Excuse me.
Jesus.
And my bad. And it just kind of just marinated for a long time, and he wanted to commit to UNC. So he was kind of like a bonus, is what I'm basically saying. To lose that bonus doesn't really hurt the class or hurt the roster from UNC's perspective. Now, that's unrelated to the transfer portal and what they're going to do with the transfer portal. Or if, and I always say if someone else elite becomes available and they want to add them to the class, it's always possible. But they aren't actively looking to add someone to replace him in this class.
Great. Yeah. The other guy being Joel Starlings out of Richmond, Virginia, 6'5", 310.
4-star kid.
Yeah, highly ranked, 307 in the nation. So he was the other interior defensive lineman. I always think they should sign more. You know what I think? You always, should sign a little bit more defensive linemen. Okay.
Well, you don't want to take a guy just to take a guy.
Of course. Yeah. So they are not looking to sign anyone else on the defensive line as a incoming freshman.
They aren't, because I want to be careful with this, because in general, I mean, if a 4-star DB popped up, they're not looking for DBs. They would take them, towards the end or in the next.
I'm saying defensive line.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to say that they are not looking to fill that void. They don't view that as a void. If a elite guy came up, elite defensive lineman came about, then they would add them. But they're not actively looking to recruit or add. They're actually not actively. Besides the two that we'll get into later on, they're not actively looking to fill certain roles. But I mean, they're going to take a really good player if they're available.
Hey, move your mic a little bit away from your mouth.
Be good now.
I think so. All right. Okay, great. Good analysis there. Good stuff from Don on Joshua Horton. Auburn was also like kind of in the mix too.
Yeah, that's why I actually thought that ultimately would be where he ended up. But
okay, and the next guy, Kavion Keys. Now he has not committed anywhere else yet.
No.
Kavion Keys committed to UNC in August, and he decommitted from UNC on December 8th last week. This was a big-time recruit. This was the linebacker, 6'3", 205 from Richmond. 316 in the nation, the number 24 ranked linebacker, a position of need for UNC. What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look back at the situation, you look at what he said when he committed, you look at how he went about things, and clearly he wasn't 100% sold North Carolina. When he committed, he said that he was going to take visits, and that doesn't. I mean, he said, "Oh, no other school can beat North Carolina." Yada yada. He did that in a bunch of interviews, but clearly that wasn't the case. So I don't think he was ever sold on UNC, and I think ultimately, the other schools were able to kind of gain ground on North Carolina and force the decommitment. I wouldn't surprise me. I don't know this to be fact. I'm not reporting this. It wouldn't surprise me if North Carolina got a little tired of, the uncertainty and wanting to. There is value in knowing what you have, what you're going to sign, and it wouldn't surprise me if that kind of factored in a little bit. But because you're constantly saying you're going to take all these visits, and so at some point you got to be like, hey, look, we need to know if you're in or not. So yeah. So obviously he decommitted. Penn State's a big player in this. Virginia Tech's involved also.
Okay.
But I think the school that seemed to make the most progress with him was Penn State.
Yeah, you see 3 predictions for Penn State. Brian Doan, Steve Wiltfong among them, 2 scoop guests. Yeah, all right. Kavion Keys. So, I mean, you look at the decommitments, just to wrap this up. Rico Walker was one of the highest ranked guys they had at the edge, in-state guy, high, a 215 in the nation, stud edge rusher. Kavion Keys, one of the best linebackers in the class, or not one of the best, top 25 linebacker, high 4-star. And then Joshua Horton, a high 3-star. Sorry, Kavion Keys is not a high 4-star, but is a solid 4-star. And Joshua Horton, a high 3-star. So you have 3 defensive commitments that decommitted from UNC. Now, does any of this have to do with kind of the issues on defense for UNC, instability, potential coaching, not changes, but, just there's a little, people are not happy with UNC's defense from the outside, what Gene Chizik and that group have done last season.
Yeah, I think if you look at all these, we touch on the Rico Walker situation, that's off the field. We touched on the Horton stuff, that's NIL stuff. Kavion Keys clearly was wavering when he committed before the season started. So I don't think you can't blame it on anything that happened during the football season or what's going on with the coaching staff. Does that help? Certainly it does not help. Yeah. But I don't think it's fair to blame any of that on what happened with those guys.
Certainly not the primary reason. There's definitely bigger reasons why, but
absolutely
helped. Okay, let's move on from that. Good little segment there, Don. Good job. All right. 2023 signing class. National Signing Day is next Wednesday, December 21st. We expect the letters of intent to roll in that morning and culminate with a press conference with Mac Brown sometime early afternoon. And UNC plays basketball that night in Charlotte. So a busy day for sure. Let's get into what is left for UNC in the 2023 class right now. Do you want to give the names and go into each one?
Yeah. So North Carolina right now is actively recruiting 2 offered guys, and both of them officially visited this past weekend. That's Michael Short, a linebacker out of Charlotte, Mallard Creek High School, to be specific, and Jordan Louis, a running back from Georgia, Meadow Creek High School in Norcross. Both of them, like I said, officially visited this past weekend. Short is announcing on Thursday.
Let's start with Michael Short. Yeah.
Okay.
Michael Short. Good. Sorry. Let me pull up his profile here too. Sorry to cut you off.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Michael Short, like Don said, out of Mallard Creek High School, 6'3", 220. Not a high ranked kid. Probably just because he hasn't been a high profile recruit. 1,756 in the nation. But I did pull up his stats from a Don article. He's had a great senior season, 124 tackles, 27 of those were tackles for a loss and 12 sacks, 10 QB pressures and 2 interceptions, and he scored 2 touchdowns. All right, Michael Short visited UNC this past weekend. The floor is yours, Don.
Yeah, so he's a guy who, as you mentioned, great senior season. It actually, in addition to North Carolina, he added uh, Wake Forest and Missouri towards the end of the season. Excuse me, sorry, it just kind of comes on. Um, he ended up only taking official visits to North Carolina and Wake Forest. In addition to the official visit he took to East Carolina back in June, which is where he was committed to until he decommitted just after his Wake Forest official visit. So he's basically down to those two schools, Wake Forest and UNC. And as I mentioned, he's going to announce his decision on Thursday. We ran a post UNC official visit story on him on Sunday or Mondays. Check that out. That gives you a good idea of just where his mindset is at.
Okay, briefly, his game, what he brings.
Yeah, so a lot of people have compared him to Cedric Gray, and I think that's accurate. The difference is that in high school, Gray was mostly used as a wide receiver because his team needed offense. That was the main thing. So Gray is probably coming out of high school much more athletic. Short is going to be a lot more polished just because he's played linebacker, um, whereas Gray didn't play that position so much. But you don't get much better when it comes to competition when with Meadow Creek High School's schedule. They play some national teams out of South Carolina. They play the best Charlotte schools. They went deep in the playoffs. Also, they played Huff High School twice this season, and so he played against some great competition to put up some great numbers, and I think that's pretty telling.
This is a legit Power Five type prospect.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think this is much of a reach. I think this is a kid who didn't get a whole lot of attention for whatever reason. Uh, coming out of his junior season, had a great senior season, and put up great numbers at a great school.
There you go. All right. Michael Short will announce his commitment. What time on? Do you know what time on Thursday?
Tentatively 10 a.m. on Thursday.
Okay. Kind of odd to commit to somewhere, decommit, and then hold up announcement. I don't know if I've seen that before.
Well, uh, I mean, clearly ECU's out, but it's down to Wake Forest, North Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
All right, Jordan Louis, moving on. 5'11", 205 from Meadow Creek High School in Norcross, Georgia. Three-star kid, 688 in the nation, 49 ranked linebacker, and had a huge senior season. 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns, 144 rushes. So he had a 10.8 yard average yards per rush. He had 38 receptions for 640 yards and 4 more touchdowns. He was committed to West Virginia, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now is down to UNC, West Virginia, and Vanderbilt. Is that right?
Yes. So he's another one who broke out during his senior season, although Coach Larry Porter actually was recruiting him. If you read some of our earlier scoops in the year, or actually our scoops during the weekly scoops, that is, during the spring, I mentioned him a couple of times because he was the guy that UNC really liked. And even though they weren't planning on taking a running back, they were considering making an exception, taking this kid. They felt he was that good. In addition to North Carolina, Clemson, Georgia, and Florida State really liked his senior film. They brought him on campus a couple of times. In the case of Georgia, and I think maybe Clemson only made it once, Florida State only once. And there was some thought at certain points that North Carolina wasn't going to get him just because either Georgia was going to offer or Clemson or Florida State. But they ultimately did not. You mentioned the decommitment stuff. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see him pick. Now, he's going to announce on National Signing Day, or the first day of the early signing period, which is December 21st. It's difficult to see him pick West Virginia. But Vanderbilt is involved also. He was also supposed to officially visit Kentucky this coming weekend, but he feels like he has enough information, doesn't need to take any more visits. So Kentucky's out of it too. So, but he's down to those three, and we'll find out on signing day.
And coming off a UNC visit last weekend, right?
Yes. So we have the update also on him, and he read it to kind of get the idea of what he's thinking, but he has his mind made up already.
Yeah, this for those who have covered and followed recruiting for a while, these are all the signs leading to a commitment to UNC.
Well, I mean,
Comment Don.
we'll just have to see.
Yeah, you can't visit and you cancel the other visits, say the right thing. My mind's made up. It's just funny because like UNC wasn't going after a running back. Like,
No.
of all the positions of need, like they need defensive backs, they need linebackers, they need edge rushers. They have a packed running back room currently, but look, it doesn't hurt to get talent on there. Surprised that no running backs have entered the transfer portal. It's going to be a big time room next year. We'll see how Larry Porter deals with that. Okay. Anything else on those two guys? Okay. Let's go to our National Signing Day preview. Let's just, I don't know how you want to handle this, Don, but right now UNC has 17 commitments. Michael Short is announcing Thursday. Jordan Louis is announcing on National Signing Day. If both those commit to UNC, we're not reporting that, just saying that'd bring it up to 19.
Yes.
Right now the class is ranked number 26 in the nation, both in the overall rank and the composite rank. Will be the lowest ranked class for UNC since 2019, which was Mac Brown's first year. That class was ranked number 31. And there's a good chance that this class could even drop further, potentially, if other schools jump them. But not an awful class at 26. That's the Layer Fedora range right there, but not the top 15 range that Mac has had the last 3 seasons. Don, in general, preview this class for National Signing Day.
Yeah, I mean, it's you kind of said a lot. It is going to be Mac Brown's worst full class that he's had. But I mean, I still think there's some very good players in there. Yeah, I mean, we have some superlatives. I think that gives a better picture of what's going on. If you want to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, see if there's anything else to say. Like,
or if you had any other general questions about the class.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of this class came together in the summer, right?
Yes, yes.
So I mean, we haven't had that many commitments in the fall. I think the only commitments we have this fall has been the 2 flips from ECU, Aiden Duncanson and Ty Adams.
Ty Adams. Yep.
And if Michael Short commits, that'd be 3 ECU former commits coming to UNC. A lot of Virginia. I mean, kind of looking at this, it had a lot of Virginia commitments. So I have a couple in Amari Campbell, tight end Julian Randolph, Paul Billups, Nolan McConnell, Joel Stalling. So dang, actually a lot of Virginia commitments. And then you lose Kavion Keys. It's got a strong North Carolina flavor as expected. The rare Oklahoma commitment. And then it's going to have a couple of Georgia commits with Caleb Lavallee, the linebacker, Caleb Cost, the cornerback, and then Robert Grisby out of North Cobb, Kennesaw, Georgia, and then Aiden Duncanson's from Georgia, and then the one South Carolina commitment is DJ Geth. Anything else?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
I think you did a good job.
Right now, the plan is to do a 3-hour live streaming National Signing Day show. It's going to be Tommy and Don on Wednesday. So have you had any conversations? Do you want to preview that at all? This will be your audience right here.
Yeah. So we're still working on the details on exactly how we're going to do certain things, a lot of things actually. So I don't have a whole lot to kind of give out, but yeah, we're gonna go from 7 to 10. That's the initial plan. That's when the letters of intent are gonna be popping in. We'll talk about each guy. It'll be very laid back sort of situation. We have some different ideas that some of them I don't know if we're gonna be employees or not, so I don't want to promise something like that we can't deliver. But I think it'll be an enjoyable thing. It'll be live, so you can ask questions on YouTube or wherever, and be very similar to what Tommy does at night as far as the live element to it.
Yeah, so that you'll have a YouTube link. That'll be Wednesday starting around 7, and you'll be able to ask questions and get involved. So check that out, the live streaming show, National Signing Day show on Wednesday starting at 7. Okay, so for my portion of the National Signing Day preview, whatever, I always like to do superlatives with you, Don. It's a good way for everybody to get to know the class. You cranked these out this morning. So let's get into it. I sent it to you before, 10 minutes
Yes.
before.
So I cheated.
So at least you have a little bit of idea, so I don't
I
pop
looked
anything
for
on
the
you.
answers.
And you can't name one player twice.
Okay.
That's tough because, the best
Yeah, no,
player.
I think well,
But,
all right. So
so
there is
just talk through
I,
it.
yeah, we'll talk through it. Let's roll.
Okay. Superlative number one. The earliest to make a significant impact at UNC. Which player in the 2023 class?
So I think this is going to surprise people, this selection, because I think hopefully those who gave me hell all this time last year about Andre Green and about Zach Rice learned that you need a bunch of things to start early. You need to have talent, but you also need opportunity. And the opportunity wasn't there for those guys. Also, there's some injuries with Andre Green too, so that's why those guys didn't see the field. I think the best opportunity is going to be defensive back, right? With everybody that they're losing, we saw Will Hardy play as a true freshman this past season. I'm going to go with another Georgia DB to make the most impact in this class. I'm going to go Aiden Duncanson. I think
Whoa.
he has a ton of talent. What worries me a little bit in this selection is he can't enroll until the summer just because of the school he goes to. But neither could Will Hardy, and very similar, rangy guys, raw guys, but just smart and just seems to just everything just comes natural. So I think Aiden Duncanson could have some sort of role for North Carolina compared
Wow.
to the other guys.
I did not see that coming. Interesting answer there. Yeah, maybe as you assume next year that it's going to be Will Hardy starting. Uh, is Gio Biggers coming back? I mean, I think he still has a decision to make. Cam Kelly's transferring, so I'm trying to think. I mean, Ja'Cory's Conley could be a safety,
Mm-hmm.
so there is a spot there though. All right, interesting. All right, and next one. Who out of this class is going to have the best UNC career? It's all said and done. We look back at this class. Who's going to have the best UNC career?
So if you listen to me a lot, this is not going to be a surprise, unlike the first answer. I'm going Chris Culver. Just spent a couple days with him at the Shrine Bowl. I think the kid's a stud. I think even the Shrine Bowl, they're doing two-hand touch and on a screenplay, put a great move on the DB and scored in two-hand touch on a team drill. Um, his numbers in this past season were ridiculous. Obviously the opportunity isn't great for receivers just because of what North Carolina has coming back. And we just haven't seen a whole lot of true freshmen contribute under Lonnie Galloway at the receiver position. So I don't expect a whole lot this coming season. But I think ultimately Culver is going to be an absolute stud for UNC.
All right. Good work there. All right. The most likely first round draft pick. All right. Who will be
So,
drafted the highest?
I'm going to go a little outside the box, and I'm going to say none of them. You're looking at this. I think one of the reasons why this class is ranked so low is you don't have Zach Rice, you don't have Travis Shaw, you don't have these guys who have the body and the high school production that you look for to be a future first round pick. Maybe Chris Culver, but I've already used him already, so I can't use him again.
So who's the most likely to get drafted the highest? Who's going to be drafted the highest? Somebody in this class
I
will
would,
be drafted.
to me, I feel like Culver.
Okay.
I mean, I guess the highest ranked is J. Brown Harvey, I
Mhm.
believe. Um,
Yes.
I don't know. I just feel like, and maybe I'm wrong on this. Wouldn't be the first time, but and I could definitely see him being drafted, but I don't think he gets close to the first round as far as being drafted.
Okay. All right. We got two left? No, we don't. We have four left. All right. There's a lot of edge rushers in this class. Who is going to be the sack leader? Who finishes their UNC career with the most sacks in this recruiting class?
Yeah, so this was difficult because obviously you go Harvey, you go Tyler Thompson. I just lean with Harvey just because of he didn't have a great senior season. His junior season was insane as far as his numbers, his sack numbers at his high school, Southern Durham. So I expect him to eventually tap back into that for North Carolina.
Okay. And the catch leader in this class. Are you going to go Culver?
Oh, I did go twice with a guy. Yeah, I have Culliver. I mean, I don't know, it's kind of hard, do I not put him there if and he's got the best career? That's kind of part of it.
Yeah. Okay. The best personality in this class. Who are fans going to be drawn to? Who has kind of the biggest, best, most dynamic personality?
Yeah, this was hard for me because there's a couple guys. There was no like Eric Ebrons where they're just, big personalities, but a couple guys who I really did enjoy talking to. I'm going Caleb Cost. He great kid to talk to. Always all of his answers are always well thought out. I mean, I can say this about a lot of different guys, but I always enjoyed talking to Caleb Cost.
Okay. The last one, the easiest and best to cover. Easily you could go Caleb Cost there, but if anybody else that was kind of always answer your phone calls, always had a text for you if you needed a quick quote, easiest to get in touch with, just made the recruiting process for you seamless.
Yeah, so there was a lot of guys really. I mean, there's a lot of guys in this group that were really easy to deal with. Costs, obviously, as you mentioned. Joel Starlings, I was just texting with him earlier. Aiden Duncanson was awesome too. But I already used Duncanson. The guy I'm going to go with, and I'll give the story. I did give it, I believe, on the podcast already. Is Ty Adams.
Ooh.
He always, anytime I needed something, he responded. He always, as soon as his official visit was scheduled, he texted me about it. So the story I'll give is that he went on his official visit, and that Saturday night texted me and said, I can't remember. I wish I'm sure I could find the text, but that wouldn't be great radio right now. But anyway, he basically told me he was going to commit the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, all right, cool. Just let me know. And then he texted me the next morning. I mean, he's basically giving me a play-by-play. He's like, hey, I'm gonna, go and talk to Mac, and then I'll talk to you. And so when he talked to me afterwards, he said, hey, let's just talk tonight at 6 and all that. So that's what we did. He didn't commit at that moment, but his initial plan was he's going to decommit first and then commit to North Carolina the next day. But I believe he did everything all at once. But yeah, so I mean, he did a great job of. I really appreciate just keep me completely in the loop all the time and always thinking about me whenever something changed with North Carolina. So that's why I picked Ty Adams.
There you go. Great answers. All right, Don, that about does it. What'd you think of the show?
It was a great show.
One of our best. Okay. Who do you think they're going to hire for offense coordinator?
I have no idea. I was hoping that you had an answer. Who do you think they're going to hire?
I don't know, man.
Art
Very
Brown?
very tight-lipped, and I'm wondering if it comes the next couple of days or it comes after the bowl game.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe after the bowl game, you kind of have more time to kind of reset and then get someone in there before spring practice starts.
Well, they're in a good spot to where they don't. There's other than or relatively speaking, there's not a huge rush. You don't need to get one in because you have a quarterback commit or because whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the way bowl games are, obviously North Carolina really needs a win, but it's not the end of the world if they lost a bowl game,
Yeah.
And they've already decided that the offensive coordinator is not going to coach in the bowl game.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's really not a rush. Like that's a good point. Maybe wait until after Christmas and after the holidays, and then New Year comes around. There's more time, and everybody's kind of settled. And then and then you have another signing day period too. So if they need to bring in a couple other recruits or something, I don't know.
Well, if you have 2 or 3 OCs that you really like, you can watch their bowl games. That could be another audition.
Well, and some of the best coordinators out there are playing the college football playoff and bigger bowl games that you'd want.
Yeah, it's true too.
Yeah. How about Lonnie Galloway calling the plays?
Well, so he did that at Wake Forest, right?
He's been involved. I don't know. I mean, he's been involved in play calling at Wake Forest and Louisville, I believe. But I'm not sure. I don't think he's actually been the OC. I might be wrong.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's he's been a coach forever, so he's been around it. I imagine he's not going to have any problems
Mm-hmm.
calling it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So he was the co-offensive coordinator at Louisville
okay,
before he came to
Louisville.
Carolina. But sometimes that doesn't mean you call it plays, right?
Yeah,
It could be
yeah,
title,
yeah.
but you are
So
definitely involved in scheming with that. And then at Wake Forest for 2 seasons, he was the co-passing coordinator.
gotcha. Okay.
All right. Friend of the program, Lonnie Galloway. All right, let's get out of here. Well, thank you to Johnny T-shirt, johnnyt-shirt.com. Thanks for listening, guys. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Check us out on YouTube. And this is the major recruiting audience. Check out Don and Tommy on the live stream, National Signing Day live stream on Wednesday at 7. You'll be able to have a link. It'll be there on Inside Carolina for sure to check that out. Don, any last words?
Happy signing day.
Happy Sunday. Merry Christmas. We say
Merry
Christmas here.
Christmas.
All right. We'll see you.